Naomi Klein.
Mr. Greenspan, I'm wondering whether you feel that you share any responsibility in the rise of this economic populism, because of course you took over the Federal Reserve during the Reagan administration, and when Reagan took office, CEOs earned 43 times more than their workers, and when you left the Federal Reserve, they made more than 400 times more than their workers. So the policies that you pursued, deregulation, privatization, free trade, have contributed to this extraordinary division of income that is really the fuel for this economic populism that you're now denouncing. So aren't you the one that has caused this crisis of faith in capitalism, or at least don't you share some of that responsibility?
Well, look, the whole issue of what has happened in this country with respect to the increasing inequality of income is an issue I address and abhor in the book. And I point out that what is causing it to a very significant extent is the fact that skilled labor is under extraordinary demand as the technologies increase. And we've had a dysfunctional education system in this country, both in primary and secondary schools, which is showing up in all the studies which indicate that while our children in the fourth grade are doing fairly well relative to international comparisons, by the end of high school they're in terrible shape. It's not anything to do with what I am proposing, and just remember that the type of globalized economy that I support has taken hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. It's created a standard of living throughout the world which is unprecedented in history. And to assume that that is something we should be apologizing for, I find is wholly inappropriate.
Naomi Klein.
Well, you mentioned Latin America, and of course there is a rise in left-wing political parties and movements in Latin America, but this is after decades of adherence to IMF structural adjustment policies, and it's precisely because those policies failed to lift people out of poverty in countries like Bolivia that you have this rise of what you're calling economic populism. It's because trickle-down economics was seen to have failed. But you also mentioned economic populism in Latin America in your book, and you blame it for for inflation episodes and the collapse of regimes and the toppling of governments. And one of your examples was Chile in the 1970s. Was Salvador Allende's regime toppled because of inflation, or didn't the CIA have something to do with that?
Well, look, I'm using Latin America as an example. The key question is not Latin America. Let's get back to the United States. Let's get back to the world at large and face the issue of populism here.